Tata Power about to start speaking. Remember, it's a big story that ET Now broke about a month ago. They acquired Welspun's renewables assets. Probably makes them the largest player. EV of 10,000 crores. The management getting ready to speak to the media. We'll cut across as soon as he starts speaking. The stock has been trading well today. I think the market would have thought that Welspun Enterprises would react a lot more than Tata Power, but I think Tata Power has done sufficiently well. Large deal, we'll try and figure out what's the rationale for that. Remember, as I said, it makes them arguably the largest wind power player in the country, and that is enough argument as well to try and figure out what the management has to say about the roadmap ahead. It's a large deal, I make no bones about it, and I think it'll be interesting to figure out what the Tatas have to say about buying this. I think the EV was to the tune of about 10,000 crores. We'll of course try and show you what the stock has done in the session today as well, and this is important because despite the market looking slightly wobbly today, I think Tata Power has not done too badly. So that is the first thing. And two, I think most of the questions around this would be circled towards what happens going ahead for Tata Power. Until now, a lot of large deals that have happened in the power space haven't really yielded too many positive results for the acquirer. Can this time be different? Is the key question that I think people want to ask him. Let's cut across as they get ready to address the media.
It's the biggest so far in the renewable energy segment. And also if you could throw some light on the deal valuation, because that is not part of the official press release.
So first and foremost, very happy to announce that we have concluded the share purchase agreement with Welspun Renewable Energy Limited. As we all know that our senior stakeholders, our board, very clearly emphasize that in times ahead, we should pursue the INDC's target that the Government of India committed itself in COP21 at Paris. And since then, Tata Power announced stretch targets of 30 to 40% through green energy. And in this pursuit, we started to look at options. And we said the biggest and the best operations was that of Welspun, where they had done a large amount of work, and therefore we very clearly pursued the assets which were the largest and operating. As you all know that for Tata Power to build a portfolio of 1140 megawatt in solar and wind would have taken a long time. We all are aware that these days land is a challenge. The interconnectivity is a bigger challenge than even land, because to get right of way and to get substation evacuation capacities is not easy. Considering this factor, this acquisition is very strategic to Tata Power. These are all operating assets. Therefore,
we'll just get them going. I think there's a bit of a media glitch out there. But this is the Tata Power press conference on they buying out the Welspun unit.
Whatever we could have done on our own, it in fact will get us better returns and lesser risk than even those. And very tactical for Tata Power, and we are very happy to have 1140 megawatt of working assets folded into Tata Power.
Sir, this is Priya from CNBC. How would you look at funding this acquisition, and if you would run us through what would be the debt at the end of this deal and also the debt equity ratio?
Our present debt equity ratio on a consolidated basis, on which we have been working for last few years, had already been coming down. We are very happy to tell you that the financial optimization that we are doing, as of March 2017, our debt equity ratio will be better, if not the same. It is for this reason that we were very keen to look at operating assets.
So what about the deal valuation? Because that's something which
the deal valuation, the enterprise valuation is about 9,250 crores, and the debt number is approximately 5,500 crores.
That would translate to how much per megawatt, sir?
So if you look at 1140, it will be about 7.7 or so.
So hi, Shilpa from Bloomberg TV. Are there any more assets that are under construction at the present, or any land bank also to the deal?
That's a very good point. Out of 1140 megawatt, which we are talking about 1000 is operating and about 140 will be operational in about next 2 months' time. So from our perspective on the date of closure, all will be operating assets. So there is nothing which will be under construction at the point when we close this transaction. The second important point that you referred to, there is a lot of extension possibility that's available in these projects, including the fact that there is possibility of even substation capacities being available. So therefore, incrementally we will be able to add quite a reasonable amount of capacity at much lower per megawatt ratios.
Will you be pursuing similar acquisitions in the renewable energy sector?
Okay, I think he's just answering about whether they'll continue to make acquisitions. Let's just hear that answer first, and then we get to Rashesh.
Similar buyouts, because there are certain companies which are looking to shed their renewable energy portfolio.
Instead of giving guidance, I would only add to say that we are in constant pursuit for good assets. And we therefore would certainly continue to look at all options that are there. As long as the risk-weighted rewards are better than what we already have opportunity in terms of growing on an organic basis, you would have seen our portfolio and noticed that we were not big in solar. Why? Despite the fact that in 1989 we created Tata BP Solar, when nobody knew whether solar can always be harnessed as electricity. It is for the reason that the solar prices were fast coming down. I'm talking about the equipment prices. And therefore we were always very concerned that would we land up into a situation where you're carrying very expensive assets which you build at expensive prices, and therefore they will look out of rhythm with the present day tariff. And it is for that reason that we waited all this while to make sure that let the solar prices stabilize, let them come to almost close to grid parity, which is when you should start building your solar portfolio. And it is for this reason that we chose this time, when we found that now the solar prices have stabilized, now they are almost close to the grid parity, and the government of India is laying tremendous emphasis on growth through solar, and therefore it will be good to be part of this entire exercise. That's the reason why we added solar portfolio now, and we become the highest, which is incidental.
So you spoke about, how this deal will give you good returns, but will you be able to tell us what the initial rate of returns would be for the solar power assets as per the valuation?
It's to be understood very easily from the fact that the entire revenue that you generate today from solar assets, almost 90 to 95% directly shows up in your bottom line. And therefore I mentioned in my initial line that whatever we expect to earn out of our own organic establishments, we expect to earn the same, if not more. And I'm not adding the future capacity addition that we can do at a lower prices. I'm talking about as it exists today.
So as far as the debt reduction target for Tata Power is concerned, so what is it for FY17? Would you perhaps look at a refinancing option going ahead?
The option to refinance, the option to garner more funds through shareholders, those are always evaluated from time to time. One is very clear that today we have been able to manage through our own performance a reduction of debt equity and reduction of debt to EBITDA. However, going forward, if one was to assume that we would want to have a spurted growth, we are always open to going back to our stakeholders and looking at all those options. So, for a growing company and for possible opportunities that may exist, our shareholders have been very cooperative. As you know that about 2 years back when we did the rights issue, that was done after 1994, and we were pleasantly surprised that in that market the rights were oversubscribed to an extent of 2 times, which is very rare, in fact was a record of sorts. So considering the affection that our shareholders and stakeholders have been showing towards our quest, we will not be shy to grow this organization using any of those financial instruments.
So what are the inherent characteristics that are present in Tata Power that will help you to leverage an acquisition of this size? And secondly, clearly the Welspun Group seems to have exited the entire renewable energy business. So therefore I'm curious to ask you, has a non-compete agreement been signed?
As far as Tata Power is concerned, with its scale and size, it doesn't have to really ask somebody not to stay in business. And I guess this non-compete, you cannot legally bind someone because you can always appear through other names and other avatars. That's not our objective, to stop somebody from not being in business. Our objective was to look at what we were getting. And I guess we are very happy with what strategically fits into our portfolio. As regards the factor that going forward, how would we sort of grow and how would we want to be in this space? We are open to looking at all options, as I said, both organic as well as inorganic. We feel that renewable space is one which is here to stay. And also with government's emphasis that they want to reach much higher proportion of renewables within the grid side, they would only be a support in terms of ensuring that these are must-run assets, these will get priority over other assets. And therefore, there has to be a sizable proportion in one's own portfolio to make sure that what gets you assured revenue, a significant part of your kitty, and not depend just on fossil fuels, which, because of the fact that the PLFs there could be under pressure. And maybe because of demand supply, and maybe because of the fact that renewables will have the first priority. You may therefore get your fixed cost, but you may not be able to get your top line to take care of your fixed costs.
So since renewables is such a hot sector which is clearly backed by the government, it's attracted the interest of several overseas funds who are also very eager to get a share of the Indian pie. How do you look at rising competition from overseas funds who are also aggressively looking at picking up portfolios?
It's a good sign. I always keep saying that you must have sincere, experienced players in the market. And I have been on record to say that my worry is that when people start to add this just to get advantage of multiples, you start to getting non-serious players, and who start to not only just create issues for sustainability of the marketplace, but the bigger issue is, from procurer's point of view, you are never sure what kind of capital equipment, what kind of assets are being built. One aspect that I must add to the credit of to strategically look into the details and pursue this asset.
You know, there was quite a bit of bidding for the Welspun assets. Do you think you paid a premium for the assets, or what is your sense of the pricing?
It's important to understand that the other side perhaps may not have looked at only the monetary value, but looked at the fact whether their legacy system will be carried forward with as much interest as they had taken in building those assets. That's number one. So therefore they wanted a robust buyer. And number two, they wanted to have an assurance of the fact that they will see the deal close, because the deal ticket size was fairly good one. And that was perhaps those two factors that they looked at, and not just the value.
And how would you look at scaling the acquisitive capacity going forward?
As I mentioned, right now for us what's important is that we take over, close this transaction in time, and then go on to make sure that what way can we add further value depending on which states are willing to buy more solar power out of this existing land. Since we are located now in 10 states, which is a bigger spread and a big advantage in terms of de-risking ourselves, we will therefore go about methodically checking with each state as to which state would be interested in giving us more million units opportunities to be pumped into their grids. And then we will expand in those locations.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.